Thank you for taking a moment to look at this video. Obtaining a CompTIA Security Plus certification can be of immediate value to professionals already working in the IT field. My name is Jason Eisler, and I have taught this course in the past. I'm happy to share the knowledge needed to readily obtain this certification with you. The reason that this module does not go on for a long time, meaning the entire module, is that I have looked to simplify the content. There are certain cybersecurity concepts that can be woven together to make the content immediately relevant and also to meet the exam objectives. I'm excited to get going, so I invite you to begin. We wanted to discuss a different type of malware or malicious code. We wanted to discuss spyware, which is an invasion of privacy, and it's often bundled with a Trojan, as we discussed, the Trojans we discussed in the prior video. Now, in the case of spyware, what spyware will do is that it will collect what's termed PII. You're going to hear this acronym quite a bit, PII, and what it stands for is personally identifiable information. That would be your social security number, birth date, credit card information, etc. When spyware is loaded onto your computer, it's going to unfortunately gather a lot of information, and that's going to include PII. Some useful freeware may contain spyware. Some of us who are in the habit of installing free games and utilities may be a bit dismayed to discover that when we scan our computer, that it's full of spyware. Confidentiality, part of that CIA triad, which is a pillar of cybersecurity, is lost when our information is compromised. An aspect of spying also involves what's called keylogging, which is a term in itself. It's a type of malicious software or hardware. And what keylogging allows an attacker to do is capture your keystrokes on your keyboard and store them in a file. Spyware often includes a keylogger. Now we want to also define what a drive-by download is, because we're going to refer to this quite often. It's when a person downloads software willingly but without clear knowledge of what they have downloaded. It can also refer to a download that occurs without a person's knowledge as a result of visiting a site or opening an email attachment or clicking a link. In this manner, Trojans are able to be installed that can operate as scareware, which we discussed before, spyware, ransomware, or a remote access Trojan. So we want to remember this term, drive-by download. Sometimes someone installs something willingly, but then something else installs, or they just go to a site and a download occurs. Adware. Now, interestingly enough, adware does not have to be malicious at all in the manner that spyware is. Today, many companies ask for consent in order to collect information about your purchases or the areas you visit on their site. They do sell this information. However, it can be intrusive, and sometimes it is unsolicited and unauthorized. There are times when we may visit a popular news site, and you may notice that you see all sorts of ads for items that either you did look at some point or you never looked at. This is likely the result of adware being installed on your computer without your consent. Some term this unauthorized adware spyware. The question arises, who is doing all of this? That is, who is creating or using all of this different malware that we have discussed? The worms, the viruses, the rootkits, the advanced persistent threats. Well, they're hackers. But we have different categories of hackers, and so we want to discuss those different categories now. We have, for example, white hat hackers versus the black hat hackers. And these are very true categorizations. The white hats are persons who have been given authorization to conduct penetration scans. They have a written agreement, perhaps with a company, and that details the type of scans that they will run. It stipulates how the information they obtained can and cannot be used. And so because they have that legal authorization, they are white hat hackers. But the black hats have no legal authorization, and they are hacking for nefarious purposes. They want to do something bad to an organization. Now, we do also have what are termed gray hats. And gray hats also, like black hats, do not have legal authorization. However, they tend to discover weaknesses in a system and then alert a company that they have found that weakness, or they publish it. But they tend not to use what they have found for a nefarious purpose, whereas the black hat certainly has that as an objective. Now, we want to talk about black hats in a bit more detail because within that category of black hat hackers, we have categorizations that go down even further. And so we want to look at that. What type of attackers are actually going up against organizations and individuals? We have script kiddies. Now, script kiddies are inexperienced hackers. They have been introduced to the hacking environment. They may be using a lot of automated tools. They're tools that allow hackers to crack passwords, to create viruses, and they may have been introduced to those tools, and so they've started using them. Electronic activists or hacktivists, they may be a bit more skilled, but they are hacking for a particular purpose. They're interested in particular issues, and that is why they're hacking organizations. Organized crime, they're the opposite of the hacktivists or the electronic activists. They're doing it for the money. So, for example, the spam that we receive, this is organized crime. There is a monetary benefit to all of that spam. What's very interesting about spam is that it does lead to purchases. Not many, percentage-wise, but because so much is sent out, there millions of dollars are made using spam. Nation states. Now we get into a discussion about those advanced persistent threats and those rootkits, that type of malware that's really advanced, that takes not just one program or five, but perhaps a dozen or more to create, advanced persistent threats and rootkits. Well, nation states can fund that. They can put together the resources necessary to create tools like that can cause a lot of damage. Then we have malicious insiders. Those are persons who are working within an organization who may have become disgruntled. They can include even contractors working within an organization. There have been stories of contractors who would create a bad event so that they would be called back and fix it and possibly be hired. So they would sabotage their client in order to fix the problem. So there was one example. There was a man named Greg Chung who spied for China while employed at Boeing, and he provided China with documents pertaining to military and spacecraft. So malicious insiders can be particularly damaging. Competitors are also corporate rivals who also, like nation states, may have access to resources and may use it in order to hurt a competitor.